Hello, everyone. So yeah, I'd like to thank all of the unaffiliated shareholders that voted in favor of the transaction by an overwhelming margin. So I think your faith will be rewarded. It's really going to be, I think, some amazing stuff that comes out. In fact, I was just meeting with earlier today, meeting with the SolarCity engineering team, and I don't want to 100% commit to this yet, but it's looking quite promising that a solar roof will actually cost less than a normal roof before you even take the value of electricity into account. So the basic proposition would be, would you like a roof that looks better than a normal roof, lasts twice as long, costs less, and by the way, generates electricity? It's like, why would you get anything else? Like, maybe there's a reason, I'm not sure why, but anyways, that's really looking really promising, and I think there's even room for improvement beyond there. So very excited about where things are going to go with the solar roof, integrated with the Powerwall, and with the obviously with electric cars. So with that, let's go to questions. I think questions, should appear on the screen. Or maybe not. Maybe we'll have to read them or something. Should we? Okay, thanks. Yeah? Okay. So apparently there's a new political landscape. And I'm not sure what people are referring to, but yeah, something. I think one of the biggest misunderstandings about Tesla, and somewhat counterintuitive, is the degree to which Tesla is reliant upon incentives or subsidies. Ironically, if all incentives and subsidies were removed for Tesla's competitive position would increase, not decrease. This is a really fundamental misunderstanding. We do believe there should be incentives and government incentives for electric vehicles, but we believe that they should be there for the good of the industry and to accelerate the advent of sustainable transport, not because Tesla needs them. Let me explain what I mean by this. The incentives either don't scale or they're disadvantageous. If you take the zero-emission vehicle credit, where you get $5,000, it's a nominal value of $5,000 per credit, and let's say you might get, say 2 of those per vehicle or 3. So 2 would be worth $10,000 face value, but Tesla can only sell them to other car companies for about 50 cents on the dollar. Because the ZEV mandate is very weak, we only get 50 cents on the dollar. However, if General Motors or Ford or somebody else makes an electric vehicle, they get to monetize their ZEV credit at 100 cents on the dollar. So if there's, say, 2 ZEV credits per vehicle, General Motors would have a $5,000 cost advantage over Tesla. They do, not would have, they do have. So if people are concerned about Tesla incentives, they should be concerned, well, how does Tesla overcome the competitive disadvantage of EV incentives? Not the other way around. There's also the $7,500 federal tax credit, but that stops at a cumulative 250,000 vehicles. So it's essentially irrelevant for any high-volume program. As soon as we start making 500,000 or 1 million vehicles per year, that 250K cumulative will long ago have run out. So no scale. It's impossible to scale electric vehicles and have the incentive be relevant. And then, ironically, in California, they put an income cap on the $2,500 incentive. So many of our customers don't even qualify for the $2,500 incentive because of the income cap, which I think is really quite destructive, since we're and doesn't make any sense to me because we're the only car company left in California. It's like Tesla is the biggest manufacturer in California. So I don't understand why the legislature would do such a thing. that's ultimately to the detriment of its own state. Anyway, these things are puzzling. And then if you look internationally, in China, which is the world's biggest car market, we currently pay 25% import duty, and we have no access to incentives because our car is not locally made. The net effect is that our car costs 40% more than a locally made vehicle. So if we made the vehicle locally, it'd be a 40% difference. So not only do we not have access to incentives, we have a huge penalty. Looking at other parts of the world, Germany put a 60,000 euro cap on the incentives, conveniently just below the Tesla, cost of a Tesla in Europe, or just above it. Yeah, just below. So essentially, it's very, very difficult for us to get access to any incentives in Germany. Denmark did the same thing. France is considering doing the same thing. So the great irony is that if all the incentives just went to zero, Tesla's competitive position would immediately improve by quite significantly. We don't think that that's a good thing for the world, but it would be a good thing for Tesla. I think that's a pretty important thing to consider. So, let's say the new president did erase all incentives, that Tesla's competitive position would just be better. So that's actually what would happen. So, who owns the technology for the new solar roof? Technology is, it's owned by us. Sorry. This was almost entirely developed by Tesla and SolarCity. Well, mostly by SolarCity, some by Tesla, and then we may or may not use a film from 3M, but the use of the film in a particular application that we're talking about was something that we came up with. But call it, I don't know, 90% plus of the technology is owned by the combined company. Sort of partially answered this question. So we expect to start doing the solar roofs in volume in summer next year. So we'll roll out. There's 4 main types. If you saw the rollout, and we'll roll them out one at a time. So we'll start off probably in like 3-month intervals. Start with the one that appears to be the most popular, and then roll each new variant out roughly on 3-month cycles from summer next year. And the cost will obviously vary according to the size of the house and the difficulty of the installation. But the important thing is that the apples-to-apples comparison compared to a regular roof, we're confident will be at least at, and we believe slightly below, the cost of a regular roof. And then electricity is just a bonus. Well, to touch on this question more than a few times, we're trying to make an integrated product. So you have an integrated solar roof with a power wall and an electric car. And you can just go into a Tesla store, just say yes, it just happens, it all works, it's seamless, and you love it. Thoughts on new competitors? Well, it's certainly encouraging to see other car makers do electric cars. I am a little concerned about the pace and volume of what they're doing, since they seem to be mostly aiming to just target whatever the incentive threshold is, and then not really do serious volume beyond that. As I said a moment ago, the incentives don't scale with volume, so the major manufacturers are not, from what we see, maybe with the exception of what Volkswagen says they're going to do, none of the competitors are planning to do serious volume in electric vehicles yet. That they're just sized to stay within the volume constraints of the incentives. So I think this, like this, the Chevrolet Bolt with a B is, I think, they're aiming for like 20 to 30,000 cars a year, but really a car like that should be 300,000 to 500,000 per year for it to really make a difference. I'm not sure I understand this question. Model 3, I think, Model 3 from the beginning we said free charging is not included in the Model 3, or not free unlimited charging is not included. So free long distance is, but not free local. It's just, it becomes really unwieldy for people to use the gas station approach for electric cars. Like cars should really be charged where you charge your phone, but then you just need to solve the long distance problem, which is what the supercharger stations will do. Already answered? All right. And I can maybe take a few quick questions from the audience. Sure. Sure. The question is, will each tile have a solar cell behind it, or will some not? And the answer is, some will not, but it's important that they aesthetically look the same, so that you do not see a patchy roof. So it has to be aesthetically consistent, but it will not make sense to put solar cells on every portion of the roof because some portions are heavily shaded, as you're pointing out. Yeah, it just needs to be aesthetically consistent. Today is not the time for that announcement. But I mean, it's probably, yeah, I don't know, beginning of spring or something like that, Yeah, 3 or 4 months from now. Sorry, I'm just going to take like maybe 3 or 4 more questions. And yeah, just over there. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the question was, what about the incentives for solar? Because there is currently a 30% investment tax credit. Although the efficiency with which that tax credit is applied really diminishes its true value to, I think, maybe a 15 to 20% true value because of the complexity of how it's set up. And it is important to note that obviously oil and gas and many other things, farming, farming subsidies are gigantic. As I always like when somebody's like complaining about subsidies, why are they complaining about what Tesla receives if we're like number 150 on the list? You have to really question their motivations. Like if they're really about subsidies, what about the top 10? But it's not really about subsidies. That's not really what they're attacking. Like stripper oil wells get something like a 25% tax credit. I don't know why we're giving a 25% tax credit to stripper oil wells. That's crazy. With no time limit, by the way. And then there's the whole scam where oil companies can do zero-cost leases in foreign countries and just pay taxes and then not pay taxes in the U.S. This is like one of the biggest scams ever. No lease is truly zero value, but if you go zero to very low value on the lease, pretend that you're getting taxed instead, then you don't pay taxes in the U.S. It's a really giant subsidy. But going back to what I was saying a moment ago, assuming it pans out that we're able to do a solar roof for less than a normal roof before you even take into account the cost of the value of the electricity, assuming that pans out, well, subsidies don't really matter.
Have you analyzed the labor cost of installing the roof in that number?
Yes.
That's a big component.
Yes, that includes the labor cost of the roof, yeah, absolutely. Turns out the roofing supply chain is incredibly inefficient, and it's been a long time since people really looked at that. I mean, when's the last time anyone here had a conversation about a roof? I mean, it's like rare. So it just hasn't, roofing has just not gotten a lot of love, So looking at just the supply chain efficiency and going to a high-strength glass instead of a concrete or ceramic tile, the glass weighs maybe a third to a quarter, sometimes even a fifth as much as a regular ceramic or concrete tile. And most of the cost of the tiles is actually transport. The logistics costs are huge, and they tend to be quite fragile, so the in-process breakage of the ceramic and concrete tiles is very high. So you have a lot of breakage, very high transport costs. The density is not very good, they tend to be quite thick. And the whole supply chain from where they're made to where they're finally installed is really inefficient. So just by kind of cleaning all that up, there are huge gains, turns out. Okay, just maybe 2 more questions. Sure.
Is the actual solar component in the roof tiles novel at all, or is that something that's been around for a while? I'm just trying to like wrap my head around how all the materials could be so cheap.
Yeah, the cell, it uses a very high efficiency cell, or will be using a very high efficiency cell. That's in the cell efficiency be in the low to mid 20s, kind of a 22 to 24% efficient at the cell level. And then it's like laminated to behind decorative glass, decorative high strength glass. And then you got to be clever about how you connect all those cells together and what the backplane looks like. But honestly, in looking at this, it's like, I don't know why anyone's not doing it. It's not that crazy hard. So, beats me. It's okay at the back there, sure.
I'm most concerned with getting rid of the fossil fuel industry. PG&E/Solar Choice for 3 cents more per your kilowatt hour will give you solar energy from solar farms in Northern California. It keeps our economy in California strong.
Sure.
And you can do it today.
All right, sounds great.
So, I mean, I know that maybe you want to put roofs on. Our roof wouldn't take solar panels.
Well, actually,
Or even the roof, it's got too many gables and it has trees. So everybody can switch over. It's just, if we get rid of the fossil fuel industry, then the electric cars will, and SolarCity will do better.
Sure, agreed. All right, one last question. Sure. Go ahead.
Well, the question I have is, a friend has a problem with Tesla being repaired. It's taking 3.5 months or so.
All right, that's not the subject matter.
The louvers in the tiles. Have you guys taken into account the sun angle? Obviously, in the summertime, it's higher up, and the wintertime, it's lower. So does that get factored in at all?
Yes.
Just trying to make sure that it catches the most throughout the whole year.
It is. Yeah. Yeah, it turns out like the actual sun energy you get when it's really low in the horizon is tiny. So excluding that low angle energy has very little effect. Yeah, and then in the way that at the microstructure, if the way it's arranged, you can actually get internal reflections. So as the photon comes in, instead of bouncing right out, it can actually bounce around inside and kick down an electron, which is photovoltaics. So it turns out that it actually the benefit offsets the efficiency hit to some degree. It looks like it's probably going to be close to even, plus minus a few percent. So, all right, thank you, everyone. Thank you.